Hello and welcome to a new episode of AWS On Air. My name is Javier Ramirez. I'm a developer advocate at AWS, and today we are going to be speaking about Amazon SageMaker Data Wrangler. I have with me a very special guest, Ajay Sharma. He's a product manager at SageMaker. So, hello, Ajay.
Hey everybody, it's a pleasure to be here.
And yeah, sure. And congrats on the launch. It's exciting. It's one of the big ones because I know it's big because I heard about it first at Andy's keynote, and then again at Swami keynote. So it's pretty big. And actually I've been around data science for a while, and I think it's a game changer for many things. But maybe you can tell us a little bit what exactly the SageMaker Data Wrangler.
Yeah, totally. So SageMaker Data Wrangler is our new visual data preparation capability for data scientists. It's inside of SageMaker Studio, and it's designed to help data scientists really answer the things that they need to do day to day in a really easy, really visual, really intuitive way. So it helps you import your data into Studio, transform it, prepare it, analyze it, and understand it, and then take everything you've done easily into production, basically at the click of a button. And it's been really fun getting to build this capability and launch it here at Amazon. And really excited to talk to you all today about it and give you a test drive, let you see how it works.
That's super cool, and I think the key here is visual because if I understand it right, I mean before Data Wrangler, I was already wrangling data. I was already like no transforming my data and checking out and seeing distributions, and I will have a couple of ways of doing that with pandas or even with some tools on AWS. So would that be the main thing that is like a visual and very integrated way of doing all the data prep?
No, 100%, 100%. I used to work in data science myself, and so I used to use, my bread and butter pandas, R, Studio, SQL, Workbench, tools like that, and all of those. You're looking at a code editor, which is great. I mean, I love my code editor, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to focus on like preparing your data instead of trying to figure out and Google search and do all sorts of stuff to figure out how to do it. And so we built this with the data scientist in mind. I almost see it as like the tool I wish I had, before, while I was working as a data scientist. So that's really kind of the vision behind it. Yeah, it's definitely very visual, very intuitive.
Yeah, so it's too late for you now as a user, but So the first
I
thing, I
know.
mean, so in order to understand how powerful this is, so okay, I'm going to be transforming data, but first I need to ingest data from somewhere. So how can I get data into the data wrangler? Maybe I believe you're going to be showing us, yeah, how to do that directly on your
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and do that? I'll just let me pull it up. Let me know if you guys can.
And by the
There we
way, what you're going to see now, it's Ajay's laptop. It's not a recording. He's going to
Yep.
he's brave enough. He's going to walk us through a real, setup. So yeah, let's cross finger here.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, let's let me give you a test drive of this thing. So the first step, at least when I did data science, is you got to get your data into whatever environment you're working in. So what you see here in front of you is SageMaker Studio. This is our interactive development environment for data scientists. And what you're looking at is the data wrangler screen. And we've got four main experiences we're going to be showing you today. And so the first one is, how do you get your data in? So
Yep.
Data Wrangler supports S3, Athena. If you've got your data on Redshift, you can create a new connection to a Redshift cluster and get your data in as well. Let me just take you through what S3 looks like. I click on S3, I can see all the buckets I've got. I'm going to navigate to just some sample data, and I can click on it. I'm in a folder, and I can preview the data. And if you imagine like how I used to do it, it's something like I'm in a notebook and I'm doing something like my data equals read CSV something something something. So like that's kind of how I
Yeah.
used to, how I would used to do it, in the old world. In the new world, it's I'm navigating to my data, I'm seeing it. I haven't written any code. It's all right in front of me. And some the kind of import parameters that you use. Do I have a header? I can uncheck it, but this data, this table, which is just airports and abbreviations, has a header. If you have a lot of data, you can enable sampling on that data set. So if you're working with 10 gigabytes, you want to sample it down to smaller size, you can do that and you can pull it in and start working kind of rapidly. Because as you know, working in data science, if you have 10 gigabytes of a data frame in memory, and then you're doing all this computation on it, it's going to take time. So yeah, so that's the S3 experience. Really briefly, I'm sorry, I was jumping around there. We've got Athena as well. So if you've got your data in Athena, you can just navigate to your data catalog. You can pick the database that your data is in. Over here, you could see all the tables that are in your data set. So I could click on that table and I can just start previewing it. This is all public open source data. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not showing you anything secret here. And previewing the data. So like before, I would have to read it in, click it, maybe view it inside of my notebook. Here, you just got it right in front of you, and I've got the column names here, so I know, hey, here are the columns in my data set, here are the types. I can actually see the values, and so it's designed to just kind of put it right in front of you. And if I wanted to start kind of writing a simple query, select star from this table here, and I'm not going to do something too crazy. And let's say this is airline flights. So where the origin is from SFO. And I'm just querying, I'm querying this table, and it's going to give me kind of all the flights from SFO,
Yeah.
and the results kind of show up down here. So that's a little bit about how we, and the Redshift experience is very similar as well. So if we let's go back. Yeah. So that's the import experience.
Cool. That sounds super interesting. So when you mention Athena, this basically means if I'm already using the AWS Glue catalog, if I have a data lake and I have my data there, I can just access that data directly with Athena. So because at the beginning when you say
Exactly.
S3, I wasn't sure. So yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
And I believe you are also, because these of course are all AWS data sources, but I believe you are already working with some third-party technology integration partners to have data which actually lives on different data sources. Is that right?
Oh yeah, totally. So we're like super excited. We're working right now with Snowflake, Databricks Delta Lake, MongoDB Atlas, and we're going to have native connectors to each of those right here in Data Wrangler inside of Studio. So just like you could get access to your data from Athena or S3 or Redshift, you can just easily pull that data right in to Studio and start working with it. And that's
Yeah,
coming Q1, yeah, Q1 and Q2 of the coming year, 2021.
that's lovely. It's all the cool kits like MongoDB, the Delta Lake on Databricks, and Snowflake is like, it's all the hype in there. I really love it. So yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
totally.
So we ingest the data and we can query from multiple sources, and I really liking what I see. But now I want to actually do something with the data. I want to start transforming, preparing data,
Totally.
which is the really intensive part. So how will I go about that?
Yeah, so I've got some stuff pulled in already. And let me just show you what you're seeing here. So this is what we call our data flow view. The data flow view basically shows you a top-down view of what's going on in your data preparation. So you can see I've
Okay.
pulled in two data sources. This one is the flights query I showed you. So these are all flights leaving from SFO. I've got airports, and this just tells me, each airport, what is the call symbol or the abbreviation mean. So SFO would map to San Francisco International Airport. And what I did was I joined those two data sets, and which you can do right from Data Wrangler. So you click on the plus, you can click on join, and it takes you through a whole wizard to just join these two data sets together. So I've already done that. And once I've done that, I can actually start preparing it. I can look at it and I can prepare it. So we have this concept of transforms, which are basically a series of steps you apply to your data set. And that's
Yep.
basically saying like things like, oh, let's rename this column, let's impute this column, let's let's remove missing values, things like that. The common like bread and butter, common data science tasks. And so um, let me just show you what that looks like. So that's our
Please.
transform screen. Yeah, so you click on it and you're like looking at it. So on the left-hand side, and I'm gonna just put that away. On the left-hand side, I'm actually seeing my data. So I'm looking at my data right in front of me. And on the right-hand side, you have all these transforms that you can apply to your data, and you don't need to write any code to do it. And also, all of these are implemented in PySpark behind the scenes. So if you're familiar, I mean, when I used to do it, and a lot of data scientists we've talked to, I probably talked to almost 100 data scientists in the last few months. What they always tell us is, look, I write something in Pandas, I write something in SQL or R even, and I got to go and work with a ML engineer or someone to like put that into production. And what we've done is basically say, hey, look, you as a data scientist can do whatever you want right here. And if once, and I'll show you the export capability. Everything gets exported right into PySpark. So this thing is going to run. If you are working on a sample of 10,000 rows, you could scale this thing up to 100 million rows, and with no extra work or very little. And so let me show you a little bit about what we've got here. So this data is telling me kind of this variable right here, if you can see on the screen.
Yep.
It's departure delay. So this is telling me for each flight, how late or early was the flight. And this is all publicly available data. So this first one up here says 24, which means that this flight going from SFO to RDM was 24 minutes late. And I actually don't know what RDM is. I'm kind of curious. What is RDM? Do we have that pulled in? Oh, I mapped on Origin, so I actually don't know. Anyways, but either way, so there you go. I got to go back and modify the join.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This flight was 10 minutes early, so that's the -10. I can actually do something cool. I can go ahead and let's see, what do I want to do? So I could go over here and maybe I want to handle missing values. So maybe I noticed that this column has missing values in it. If I scroll, yeah, so you can see there's like a missing value here. Maybe I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
drop those missing values. So let's go ahead and do that. I just do drop missing. I want to drop the rows and I tell it departure time, because that's the column we're working on right here. Sorry, departure delay. Wrong one. Okay, departure delay. I just preview it, and it's showing me now a
That's it.
preview of that column dropped, and it's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And then you just
Yeah,
add it.
something I love is like, when you saw this, when you were showing the screen, I checked to the right and I saw, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 transforms, and then you went there and click, and they were categories. So
Yeah.
actually, under each of those, I have like several transforms. So how many transforms do I have here? How many things can I do without
Yeah.
coding?
Oh, without coding, we have 300. There's 300 different things you could do that we've, and there's more coming, let me tell you. But what we were able to get in right
I,
now, 300, and
I will have a
yeah,
hard time trying to define 100, because I will start, okay, uh, dropping columns, renaming columns, joining, splitting, but I don't know, I could get to 50, 60, but 300, man, it's like, yeah, it's quite a bit. It sounds
it's a lot.
quite complete, actually, quite impressive. So okay, so this
Yeah.
way we are preparing data, but I'm assuming at this point you are preparing data because you're already familiar with the data set. But when I'm doing data science, one of the things I like to do at the beginning is just get some stats, get a feeling of the data, is trying to visualize, I don't know, histograms, distributions, outliers, all those things. So can I also do something like that with data Wrangler, or
Oh,
is that too much?
totally. Totally,
Oh.
totally. Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. Let me show you. So if we go, we go back to our data flow view, and
Yeah.
you click on the plus, you go to add analysis, and now you're taken to an analysis screen inside of Wrangler. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
this is designed basically for exploratory analysis. So let's say I've got
Yeah.
histogram, and let's say I want to just do a histogram of, let's see, elapsed time. So on average, flights that are leaving from SFO, how long do flights leaving from SFO take? It looks like a bunch of flights take between 50 to 100 minutes. So
Mhm.
yeah, so most flights leaving from SFO, take either anywhere from about an hour to hour and a half. And so immediately, like, I didn't have to write any code. I forget, I used to use ggplot or matplotlib in Python, and there's syntax you got to remember. None of that here. And the cool thing is, when I export this, all the code that generates this plot gets exported too. So,
Nice.
if yeah, so you can, look, you can pull this out, you can go into a notebook if you want to do other stuff, and actually look at all this stuff there. If you want, also, let me show you something else that's cool here. If I go back, um, you can actually write your own code to create your own transforms. I'm not going to do that
Okay,
here, but
nice.
if you want, if you're familiar with Altair, and we've got Matplotlib coming, as
Yeah.
well, you can actually write your code to do the
Yeah.
visualization.
Yeah.
It'll also show up here. So just in case, you want to do something we don't do, you can do
Yeah.
that as well. And
So
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 that's a bit. Mhm.
so for instance, sorry I interrupt, but I'm getting too excited about
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things because it sounds
yeah.
so. Do I get only like no the histograms, or do I also get things like empty null values,
Oh yeah,
total
there's
number of
there's a
values, all those things?
we so yeah, let me show you. It's all kind of right here. We've got histogram, we've got
Yeah.
scatter plots,
Yeah.
table summaries, which give you like a tabular summary of, min, max, mean, standard deviation, kind of your basic statistics. We have some cool stuff here as well. That's sort of, we've custom built, for Data Wrangler. One of those is Quick Model. So, when I used to do this stuff, and when we talk to data scientists, they tell us, I'm doing my feature engineering. I'm trying to build
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
model, so I'm doing my feature engineering, but I don't know how well my model is going to be until I actually hit the, xgb.train or model.train. I submit it, I get the results back, I inspect the model object. It's like a whole bunch of steps. How can I just quickly get a sense, an estimation? And so we have this quick model tool, and I'm not going to run it now because it does take a minute or two. But what you do is you just select the column that your target variable is, and you click run, and it'll give you the model performance metric. So you could think of like F1 score or RMSE or MSE, things like that. And as well as the feature importance. So you immediately know, hey, what are my top features coming out of the data that I have so far? And
Mm-hmm.
what does that estimate look like? And what we're doing is we're running a 70-30 train test split on a random forest, model underneath, and it's all in Spark. So this stuff, people have told us, runs super fast. They're like amazed at how fast this thing runs. So, and we've got more of those coming as well in the coming year. But really, it's like, once you know that, okay,
Yeah.
can I go for lunch, or do I need to work through lunch to get more features built into my model, so that, I can really show and deliver the results that I need to. So that's one thing. We've got a couple cool other things. One is this thing, called the bias report, which is basically SageMaker Clarify, which also launched, this reInvent that gives you a
Yeah.
ton
Yeah. Yeah.
of cool information about, is my data set potentially biased?
Mm-hmm.
Are the results that could come out of my data, potentially lead to skewed or biased models? And so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all it's all GUI. You don't need to write any code. You can choose sort of the options you want, the metrics that you want, and you can do that. We have one more that I'd like to talk about called target leakage, which basically helps data scientists identify features, that potentially may exhibit a target leakage, which means, I'm using data potentially at inference time that I wouldn't have when I'm actually making an inference. And so how do I
Yeah.
detect and
Sure.
make sure, that I don't do that? And so we've got target leakage as well. So there's one more, and then so yeah, so that's the analysis capability. And
Yeah, that sounds super cool. I mean, I wasn't aware it was actually so complete. So yeah, yes, So when you mentioned the bias there, it's basically checking if there is like imbalance or any
yeah,
particular classes or anything. I guess, and something I not sure if it will be supported, but and we didn't prepare this question. Sorry about that. But when you were showing, like about the feature importance and about knowing which is more relevant and so
Yep.
on, would it also tell me about some correlation between different variables in case I have like a few variables that are like very correlated, so I can just train with only a few of them, or is that also part of the output I
Yeah,
get?
that's covered. That's more covered in the target leakage. So you
Yeah,
can look and see, hey, like, but as far as the correlation plot, that's coming. But
yeah,
this is a perfect example of like where if we're not covering it, you could go ahead and just search correlation matrix. I've
sure,
done
yeah,
this. Google correlation matrix Altair code and literally copy and paste it in here, and it'll basically render it for you. And there's
yeah,
thousands of these available kind of online. So that's one thing data scientists have told us, like, help me make this flexible to what I need to do.
yeah.
Um,
That's super cool. I was going to ask you actually, how is this different to AWS Glue Data Brew? But after seeing this, I don't think I have to actually ask you, because
yeah,
at the beginning, Data Brew is like very similar, that you can prepare data visually and do filters and transforms and so on. But all these machine learning specific things, those are not anywhere on Data Brew. So I guess Data Brew is more for data engineers. This is specifically built for data scientists. Is that right?
that's right. That's 100%. If you're a data scientist and you're doing data preparation,
Yeah.
um, we've definitely built this with you in mind. So yeah,
Yeah, that sounds super nice. And we have only a few minutes, but I think I want to actually ask you, please, if you can show us how you export the data prep now. For a workflow I can use on production.
totally. Totally. So I just click on the export button here. It tells me to select the step that I want to export. And so when I select it,
Yeah.
it's going to select all upstream steps as well. And I just hit export, and we've got 4 different options to take what you've done in Data Wrangler and make it work for you in your production environment. So the first one is
Mm-hmm.
basically launch a Data Wrangler job. And so basically the Data Wrangler job executes this entire data flow graph full of the different data preparation steps that you've created on your data using a SageMaker processing job. And so if I click it,
Mm-hmm.
for example, it's going to create that notebook. And so I've got the notebook. I'm going to select the data science kernel, and all I have to do is run this notebook, and it's going to execute that data flow that I've created. So it's all centered around this notion of a flow, which you've created here,
Yeah.
and running this notebook just runs that, and
But
everything. And
but
if you
I can
want, you
see.
can
Yeah.
change. Mhm.
That's the thing. Yeah, I can see. It's a live notebook. I can actually change the contents.
Yeah, exactly. So,
That's all.
for
That's
example,
awesome. That's
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I know I'm so excited. I could talk about this thing for ages. Yeah, so that's one of the options. Let me show you some of the other integrations we have as well. So if you want, you can export this whole thing as a step in a pipeline. So we launched ML pipelines
Mm-hmm,
this
mm-hmm.
year, and basically take this whole thing and make it a single step in an end-to-end ML pipeline, going from data prep to model training, model validation, deployment. The other one is Python code. So this one's cool. If you click on that, it actually gives you all the underlying Python code. You can actually take this on your own Spark setup, and assuming you could connect your data to it, and I'm scrolling through a lot of lines of code here, but it really gives you all the steps that you've done and all the code to run it. So it's fully transparent. If you're doing a handle missing, you can actually
Yeah.
see the underlying PySpark code that does that for you. And we give
So I
you
can
that.
take, yes. So I can take my EMR cluster, run this in a distributed environment. I can scale as much as I need.
Wherever you want. And yeah, and if you want to scale, I mean, our processing job scales too. So you can use SageMaker processing job, change this instance from an MLM 4x to like a 24x, and or even scale out the instances, and you can actually make this thing run on however much data you can throw at it. I mean, and I'd love to hear from users, see how much how much they want to throw at this. So yeah, and then the last one is our feature store, which I think you may have already
Yeah.
covered. But the feature store is another thing that also launched this year from SageMaker, which basically allows you to take this data, create new features in your feature store, and then another data scientist can basically reuse those features, and they're not starting from scratch, and you have a central kind of repository to manage all your features. So yeah, that's a little bit of the export capability.
That sounds super cool. So I can imagine with what you built, you had a few customers actually testing this before going live. So you have any experience, any feedback you can share about the customers, what they are building with this already?
Yeah, totally. We're super excited. We while we were building this, we had customers already using it in production for them, and some of those customers like Invista, 3M, Deloitte, DNA, Nomura Research Institute, have actually used Data Wrangler and tried it out. And what they've told us is they love this idea of basically saying, hey, look, you're giving me all this stuff. I don't have to write any code to do it. I get the scalability and I can move into production super easy. And people love that. People love that because it just makes really we're just making everyone's lives easier, and it just feels really good to hear that from customers that they're able to go work faster, work smarter, and work more efficient in terms of all of their data prep. So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. With what I saw, I can only imagine the amount of hours it will save me, on a small stupid errors, checking documentation, and I still get all the flexibility to tweak my notebook in case I need
Right.
it. So that's super interesting. So we need to be closing soon. So this is already available, so anyone can use it. So if one of the people watching this, if they want to try it out, they only have to go to the Amazon SageMaker Studio, and it will be right there, right?
Oh, totally. If you're in Studio, it's literally 2 clicks away. You click, yeah. So yeah, you can get it from the file menu. We have a new launcher. You can click on the launcher. There's a button for it that says new data flow. Literally click on that button and boom, you're inside of Data Wrangler.
Cool. That was super cool. I will stay here to speak with you for much longer, but unfortunately we need to finish now. So thank you very much. It was super interesting to see how this is working. I'm just looking forward to see what you are building next.
Hey, thanks, Javier. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good event.
Bye, everyone.